Episode 107. After dividing the spoils, the younger of the two men gave the heavenly void sect disciple's corpse a vicious kick and began to scheme.
You're dreaming. Use your head. The fact that the two of us, fellow disciples, were randomly teleported together is already a huge stroke of luck. At the very least, our chances of survival are much better than anyone else's. We only got lucky taking that guy down. You really think we're so capable we should play the fool's game of waiting by the tree for a rabbit? Aren't you afraid we'll run into some real heavy hitter and get ourselves killed? Besides, who in their right mind would come to a place like this? The smart move is to get to the central immortal zone early and fish in troubled waters.
The older spirit beast mountain disciple was clearly far more domineering and cunning than his younger counterpart. He lectured the other man while simultaneously keeping a vigilant, frequent watch on the surrounding dense forest. So, Han Li grew even more cautious, pushing his art of concealment to its absolute limit and sealing his aura away completely. The idea of taking on two opponents at once was pure folly. Han Li had never considered it, and he certainly wasn't about to try. One was at the early stage of the 12th layer of magic power, the other at the late stage. If they teamed up, his chances of victory would be slim. He possessed no earth-shattering power to hold off 100 foes single-handedly, so Han Li could only watch helplessly as they plucked the last few frost-mist grasses from the pond's edge, and then incinerated the heavenly void sect disciple's corpse to ashes. Finally, the two of them placed the frost ice cicada into a red leather pouch and vanished into the dense forest opposite. After the two left, Han Li didn't get up immediately. He waited a while longer. Then, he shook the fallen leaves from his person, straightened up, and stared thoughtfully in the direction where they had vanished.
Seems I'm not the only one with that idea. That's hardly surprising. How many people who dare to risk the blood-forbidden trial aren't dreaming of the heaven and earth spiritual treasures in the central zone? A bloody clash is inevitable. The number of spirit herbs that form and mature each time is just too limited. There's never enough to go around.
Han Li stood there for a moment, his face dark. To see someone as cautious and meticulous as the blue-clothed man vanish from the world without a sound. And who knows how many similar scenes were playing out in other corners of the Forbidden Zone. This alone shook Han Li's confidence in achieving his goal.
I truly can't tell if coming to this forbidden land was the right or wrong choice. Maybe if I'd just taken those 2 Foundation establishment pills, I could have broken through. There was no need to come here and risk my life like this.
Han Li was starting to have second thoughts. After all, it's easy to talk a big game, but when the shadow of death truly looms over you, it's still a bit unsettling. Several hours later, Han Li set off from the spot. His course remained set for the heart of the Forbidden Zone. After careful consideration, Han Li's reason prevailed. He knew full well that those petty thoughts from a moment ago were just excuses for his own cowardice. So, steeling himself, he set off once more. Han Li didn't follow directly behind the pair. Instead, he took a slightly longer, more circuitous route, even though the Spirit Beast Mountain duo's path was the most direct and fastest.
It's not that I'm worried they'll spot me themselves. I'm just wary of the Spirit Beast Mountain's strange and varied beast-taming methods. I don't know if they have some special trick that could let them detect my tailing through other means. Back then, I could track and monitor specific targets from a distance using just a single clever little cloud-wing bird. So, the Spirit Beast Mountain's similar beast-taming methods must be even more covert and bizarre. After all, we're cultivators. Our methods are far beyond what mere martial artists can comprehend.
Speaking of the cloud-winged bird, Han Li felt a pang of regret.
When I first entered the yellow Maple Valley to avoid drawing attention, I released the cloud-winged bird into the Taiyu mountain range and let it roam free. At first, the bird would often come back to me, its master, to beg for its favorite Huangli pills. But as time went on, its visits grew fewer and farther between. Eventually, it grew too wild, flying off one day and never returning. What a mistake. It would have been a great help on this trip into the forbidden area.
Han Li had no idea that his decision to take the long way around had actually allowed him to dodge a bullet. After leaving Black Dragon Pond together, the two Spirit Beast Mountain disciples each released a large swarm of 5 colored moths from a pouch.
These rainbow moths are truly a treasure. Once released, they scatter instantly, blanketing an area of over 100 zhang. Their colors shift and blend with the surroundings, becoming nearly invisible unless you look very closely. Even if someone with sharp eyes spots the moths, they'll most likely just assume they're a natural part of the environment. They won't suspect a thing.
That's precisely why I brought them along. These colored moths are our natural sentries. The moment someone enters their perimeter, we know. That gives us time to prepare.
This living alarm net, composed of countless insects, was truly flawless for detection. It was a signature trick of the Spirit Beast Mountain disciples. Even if disciples from other sects knew about this in advance, they still had no way to deal with these insects. There was simply no way to slip past them for a surprise attack. Truth be told, Han Li had already gotten lucky once at Black Dragon Pond. The two Spirit Beast Mountain disciples had only released their rainbow moths after they'd left the pond. Otherwise, Han Li would have been discovered right from the start. This wasn't an oversight on the duo's part. The moths were simply born with a fear of the cold. Even a slight drop in temperature would freeze them to death. A real shame, that. And the water of Black Dragon Pond was innately, unnaturally frigid, turning the entire area around it as cold as midwinter. Under those circumstances, how could they dare to send out their rainbow moths on a suicide mission? Han Li was completely unaware of the danger he had just avoided. He now stood at the base of a strange cliff, silently gazing down at 2 corpses lying at his feet, their deaths a gruesome sight. One corpse wore black, form-fitting clothes. The figure was burly with thick, powerful hands. A thin crimson line marked the neck. The head lay with eyes wide open, a face frozen in bitter resentment, a death most unjust. This one was likely a disciple of the giant sword sect. The other corpse was of medium build, its body a mangled mess of flesh and blood. Most horrifyingly, its face was completely featureless. A massive greatsword had been driven straight through its visage and out the back of its skull, pinning the body to the ground. Brain matter and blood had pooled in a wide, sticky puddle. But wrapped around the ring finger of its curled right hand were strange, transparent threads, shimmering faintly in the sunlight. Han Li studied the corpse of the giant sword sect disciple for a long moment. Then, he rose up on his toes and gave the head with the red line on its neck a light kick. The massive head promptly rolled away with a heavy thud. It seems this person was already decapitated. Han Li sighed, then looked over at the other corpse, whose identity required no further confirmation. Though the face was gone, the identical yellow robe was proof enough. The only question is, which fellow disciple from Yellow Maple Valley met his end here? It was clear the two had killed each other. Han Li raised his head, staring motionlessly at the cliff top, but in his mind he'd already reached a conclusion. He'd pieced together most of the scene where the two had clashed the moment they met.
From the evidence at the scene, I can deduce my senior brother must have exploited his opponent's overconfidence at the moment of imminent victory. In the final instant, he used this object to launch a surprise attack, cleanly severing the man's head. But he clearly hadn't anticipated that. For some reason, the black-clad man still had enough strength left in his final moments to launch his greatsword. With a single strike, it claimed the life of my senior brother, who, whether too gravely wounded to dodge or having made the same fatal mistake of overconfidence, resulting in a brutal, mutually assured destruction where no one emerged victorious. Senior brother, I wish you a smooth journey to the Yellow Springs and a swift reincarnation. Since you're dead, I'll be taking your storage pouch.
He searched the area once, but Han Li couldn't find their storage pouches. His expression turned grave. He searched again, meticulously.
Still nothing.
Han Li felt the hairs on his neck stand on end, and his heart began to pound.
There's a fourth person here. They're the one who took the storage pouch. While it's highly likely they've already left this place, I can't rule out the possibility they're still nearby, watching, using these two corpses as bait to try and find an opening in my guard.
Across the cliff face lay a vast expanse of tall grass, easily tall enough to conceal a person. And Han Li was crouched with his back to the tall grass, facing the corpse. It only deepened his unease.
Maybe that person is hiding right behind me.
Han Li remained motionless, still crouched. From behind, he seemed entirely focused on the corpse before him. But in reality, he was on high alert. He had already quietly drawn his magic tool and talismans, and his divine sense was silently spreading out, trying to locate any potential sniper.
My divine sense detected no unusual spiritual chi fluctuations nearby, but that's to be expected. If someone really was hiding around here, they'd definitely be using a concealment technique to suppress their magic power. Of course I wouldn't be able to detect them. The purpose of my divine sense sweep was simply to flush out the snake. At the very least, it would make any potential opponent think twice before making a move. The outcome was just as I expected. Either I was worrying over nothing, scaring myself with shadows, and there was no one here at all, or the Watcher saw no opening to exploit and has been keeping their aura suppressed, with no intention of making a move.
A moment later, Han Li stood up, turned around, and swept his cold gaze over the expanse of tall grass several times. Without a word, he suddenly leapt into motion, bounding away with a few swift movements until he gradually vanished into the distance. Just as Han Li's figure vanished completely from sight, a sudden rustling broke the utter silence of the grassy thicket. A slender figure emerged, a young woman in flowing white robes. She looked young, perhaps 15 or 16, with a pure and innocent face that radiated a naive charm. To find such an elfin beauty in this place of life and death, it's truly unbelievable. Judging by her attire, the girl was a disciple of the Concealing Moon sect. The girl glanced in the direction Han Li had vanished, then spoke to herself.
His nerve and mind are decent enough. It's just his magic power that's a bit lacking. Her innate talent seems to be the bigger issue. There's not much potential to tap into. Otherwise, if she makes it out alive, she'd be quite the promising material. But the footwork she used to escape, that looked like a worldly martial arts technique, and a fairly advanced one at that. How interesting.
The girl rested her pointed chin in her hand, her large eyes gleaming with keen interest. Had Han Li heard those words, he would have been utterly dumbstruck. The other party's words were too on point. With just a few phrases, they had incisively pinpointed all his strengths and weaknesses, as if they understood him better than Han Li himself.